So I've already dived deep into the zoom in effect of organism. That is, organisms, if we zoom in on organisms, we have many organ systems that comprise an organism. And if we zoom in on organ system, we have many organs which comprise an organ system. So now if we zoom in on organs, we have many tissues which comprise an organ. And now if we zoom in on the organ, we have many tissues which comprise an organ. We have many cells which comprise a tissue. We have many cellular organelles which make a cell. We have many molecules which make a cellular organelle. We have many atoms which make a molecule. So I am pretty sure that by this point you are already clear about these concepts. Now let us dive deeper into the organ system part. So now I'm going to be discussing about some of the common systems present in our body, such as the skeletal system in brief. I'm not going to be describing them in much details, which I will describe later when our classes start. I'm going to be describing them in brief, but you will be able to know about the details of them. So first is skeletal system, second is nervous system, and the third I will be discussing is the circulatory system. And the last thing I'm going to be discussing is the pituitary gland. So let us dive into it. So let's get started with skeletal system. So why do we say that human babies have 300 bones and adult have 206 bones? Why do we say that? Actually, when babies are born, their bodies are not fully made up of bones. Their bodies are not fully made up of bone cells. Actually, bone cells are known as osteocytes. So their body is not fully made up of osteocytes, and their body is somewhat made up of cartilage. That is why the body of babies are very soft, and that is why it is generally advised to keep the baby in the mother's hands, so that the baby gets proper shape and the proportion of the body is actually very good. It is actually advised to keep the baby in the mother's hand because their body is mainly cartilaginous. They are not made up of bones. What happens, why 300 bones in babies and why 206 bones in adult? It is because from when a baby matures, from a baby to adult, the bones, many bones, some of the bones, the rest of the bones, 300 minus 206, the rest of the bones actually join to form the 206 bones. Some of the bones joins and fuse to become compact bones. These are known as compact bones. In adult, compact bones are present. So the compact bones actually comprise the 206 bones. That is why in babies there are 300 bones and in adult there are 206 bones. So if someone asks you this question, you will be easily able to reply now. So let us dive deep into the skeletal system. Skeletal system of adult. Actually, the skeletal system of adult comprises of 206 bones. If we take the help of a diagram, say for example, it is the skeleton of human. It is not a clear-cut diagram, but say for example, it is. In a skeleton of human, this is the main axis. Clearly, you have studied maths and you are clear about the term axis, which is present in graph. Say for example, this is the main axis of the human body. Main axis of the human body, and this is the appendicular part. Say for example, these are your hands, these are your legs. So these are the appendicular parts. This is the forelimbs, this is your hind limbs. So this is the main axis of the body and this is the appendicular part, or the forelimbs and the hind limbs. So why I am explaining this is because the skeletal system itself is divided into two parts. First is the axial skeleton. And second is the appendicular skeleton. So what is the axial skeleton? As I've explained, axial skeleton is the one which is present on the main axis. Say for example, this is the main axis. The main axis of the body, axial skeleton is present. And the appendicular skeleton, the hands, bones which are present on your hands, which are also known as forelimbs, and the legs which are also known as hind limbs. Okay. So what is the division of bones? 206 bones. Actually, the axial bone have 80 bones and the appendicular skeleton have 126 bones. So now the main question is, what does axial skeleton and what does appendicular skeleton comprise? So according to the zoom in effect, if we zoom in on 206 bones of skeletal system, we have axial skeleton, we have appendicular skeleton. Now let us zoom in on the axial skeleton part. In the zoom in effect of axial skeleton part, we have many parts, such as, I'm going to be using a flow chart because it is easier for you to visualize and remember the concept. The axial skeleton comprises of skull, it is hyoid bone, it has ear ossicles, it has sternum, it has your ribs, and it has your vertebra. So if we zoom in on the skeletal system, we have axial skeleton, we have appendicular skeleton. If we zoom in on the axial skeleton, the 80 bones are present, in which the skull, there is skull, there are 22 bones of the skull, there are 1 bone of the hyoid, you have 2 ears, so there are 3 bones in each ear, so we have 2 into 3, 6 bones total of ear ossicles. And now we have a sternum. That sternum is actually the main axis of the rib cage. Say for example, this is your rib cage, the cage which you are all aware of. This is your rib cage, and the sternum is actually the main line, the main axis which is present on the ventral side of your body. Now you may ask, what is ventral side or what is dorsal side? Actually, the side which is present on the front part of your body is known as ventral side, and the side which is present on the back side of your body is known as dorsal side. This is the back side, is known as dorsal side. Sorry, you are not able to see. The back side is known as dorsal side, and the front part is known as ventral side. So on the front part, the main axis of the rib cage, the ribs join to form the sternum, but on the back side, the ribs join to form the vertebral column, which you are commonly called the spinal cord or the backbone. Now let us come back to the skeletal system. So the skull has 22 bones, hyoid has 1 bone, ear ossicle 3 bones in each ear, so 2 into 3, total 6 bones, sternum 1 bone, main axis on the rib cage which I have explained you now, and the ribs. In the ribs we have 24 bones, and the vertebral column which has 26 bones. The vertebral column itself comprises of 7 cervical bone, 12 thoracic bone, 5 lumbar bone, 1 sacral and 1 coccyx, which is not important for you at your standard. Now we will dive into appendicular skeleton. I am going to erase this to dive into appendicular skeleton. So what is appendicular skeleton comprises of? We have seen skeletal system, 206 bones. We have zoomed in. We have seen axial skeleton. We have seen appendicular skeleton. Now let us zoom in on the appendicular skeleton part. Now, as I have already told you, the appendicular skeleton itself comprises of 126 bones. So what are the parts of appendicular skeleton? Let us zoom in. In the zoom in effect, we see that in appendicular skeleton we have limbs. I have already told you the appendicular skeleton is the bones which are not present on the main axis of the body. Say for example the forelimbs and the hind limbs. So here are the limbs and the girdles. What are the girdles? I will be explaining you. First let us come into the limbs. What are the limbs present on earth? We have forelimbs and we have hind limbs. Forelimbs are your hands and the hind limbs are your legs. It is actually very easy to remember this way. These are your hands, these are your legs. In forelimbs we have 30 bones in each hand. We have in hind limbs we have 30 bones in each leg. So what are the bones present on forelimbs and hind limbs? We will be discussing that later. Now let us come into girdle. What are the girdle bones? Girdle bones itself comprises of pectoral girdle, which is the present on the upper part of the body, and we have pelvic girdle, which is present on the lower part of the body. Pectoral girdle itself is made up of 2 bones called the clavicle and the scapula, and the pelvic bone itself comprises of a bone that is formed by the fusion of 3 bones, that is ilium, ischium and pubis, which I will be explaining later. So clearly, as you can apply the zoom in effect on the appendicular skeleton, let us zoom in on appendicular skeleton. We have come to limbs and we have come to girdles. So clearly, if we apply the zoom in effect on limbs, we have forelimbs and hind limbs. So there are 60 bones in each forelimb and each hind limb. So clearly the total 120 bones will be present in the limbs, and total of 6 bones will be present in the girdle, because in pectoral girdle we have 4 bones. Each clavicle and scapula have 2 bones each, and in pelvic girdle we have 2 bones. Here ilium and ischium fuse to form 1 bone and pubis. So we have total 2 bones. So clearly this is the appendicular skeleton. Now let us dive deeper. Let us zoom in on the forelimb and hind limb. I am going to erase this to show you what hind limb and forelimb consist of. As I have told you, let us first dive into forelimb. As I have told you, forelimb we have 2 limbs of upper part of the body, that is the hands. So 30 bones present in each hand. So total 60 bones are present in the forelimbs. So the forelimb comprises of many parts: humerus, radius, ulna, carpal, metacarpal, phalanges. These are the part of forelimb. And if we look at the hind limb, it itself has two parts each, and there are 30 bones in each part, so total there are 60 bones. So what are the part of the hind limb? It has femur, it has patella or the kneecap, which you are commonly aware of, and it has tibia, it has fibula, it has tarsal, it has metatarsal, it has phalanges. So now I'm pretty sure that at this point all of you are getting confused by all this name and why it is important. Now I'm going to draw a simple diagram to explain you why why these terms are very important. Now if you look at the forelimb, we have 60 bones total of two limbs comprising together 60 bones. So in forelimb, so this is the forelimb. Okay, let us see what are the parts. This is actually humerus, the bone which is present. You can clearly imagine that this is the humerus, and this is the radius, this is the carpal, this is uh, metacarpal, this is phalanges or your digits or your fingers. So clearly it starts from humerus, then we come to carpal, then we come to radius, we have metacarpal, and we have phalanges. So let us dive into hind limbs. If you look at hind limbs, we get the longest bone of the body or the strongest bone, which is known as the femur. You should all be aware of the fact that femur is actually the strongest bone of the body and also the longest one. So from femur we have patella or the kneecap, which you are all aware of, and then comes extension known as tibia and fibula, and then we have tarsal, and then we have metatarsal, and then comes the phalanges or the digits of your legs. Here is the femur, here is the patella or the kneecap, and then we have tibia, we have fibula, we have tarsal, then comes metatarsal, and we have phalanges or the digits of the legs, which are commonly known as toes. So these are the diagrams of hind limbs and forelimbs. So at this point I am pretty sure that it is clear to you. Now if we dive into the human nervous system, the human nervous system comprises of two parts mainly: the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system is actually the site of processing of all information and control and all impulses of our body. Say for example, we touch a hot object. Say this is a hot object, and when we touch it, how we are able to immediately push back our hand is actually a part of CNS. PNS has some effect also, but it is actually a part of CNS. So why we are studying this is very important. Why we are studying the human nervous system is actually important to know, important for your knowledge. So CNS is the central nervous system, PNS is the peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system itself comprises of brain and spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system itself comprises of the somatic neural system and the autonomic neural system. Somatic neural system is the one that mainly controls the skeletal bones or the bones of your body, which are under voluntary control or regulation. The autonomic nervous system is controlled by the muscles which are not in voluntary regulation. For example, your heart muscle, for example, your stomach muscles. These are actually the muscles which are not under your direct control. You cannot control them. You cannot control how you breathe. You cannot control your heart rate. These are the parts which are present, controlled by the autonomic nervous system of the peripheral nervous system. And if we dive deep into the autonomic nervous system, we have two more parts, which is the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system helps to increase the heartbeat, parasympathetic nervous system helps to decrease the heartbeat. So this is the brief overview of the human nervous system. If you zoom in, if you apply the zoom in effect, we zoom in on human nervous system, we have CNS, we have PNS. If we zoom in on central nervous system, we have the brain and the spinal cord. If we zoom in on peripheral nervous system, we have the sympathetic and the we have the somatic neural system and the autonomic neural system. If we zoom in on autonomic neural system, we have sympathetic and parasympathetic neural system. So I am pretty sure that at this point all of these functions and this classification is clear to you by now. Now let us dive deep into the human circulatory system. In circulatory system, the main component of the circulatory system, which you are all aware of, is blood. Now let us zoom in on blood. What does blood comprise of? Blood it actually comprises of two parts known as the fluid matrix and the plasma. Now your main question will be, what is fluid matrix? Where does the term matrix come from? Now say for example, your mom is making a chicken curry. In chicken curry you have many ingredients present, such as the chicken which is present, and then comes the gravy. So the gravy is actually a matrix of the chicken curry. The chicken curry is the dish and the matrix is the gravy which is present. So the matrix here is gravy, and the matrix of blood is actually the fluid matrix, which is commonly known as plasma. So I am pretty sure that it is clear to you by now that, say for example, we are talking about chicken curry. In chicken curry, the fluid matrix is the gravy, but in the blood we have the fluid matrix, which is commonly known as the plasma. Now if we look deep into the plasma, it comprises of 90 to 92% water and the proteins. The proteins are mainly divided into three types: fibrinogen, globulin and albumin. Fibrinogen is actually helping the blood clotting, albumin actually help in the osmotic balance, and globulin actually help in the immune responses of the body. Now if we dive deep into the formed elements, we have formed elements are RBC, WBC and platelets. RBC known as red blood cell, WBC known as white blood cell, platelets are platelets. Now what is the common biological term of RBC? If anyone asks you what is the common biological term of RBC, it is actually erythrocyte. WBC, white blood cell, it is commonly known as leukocyte. Platelet, it is actually known as thrombocyte. The WBC itself comprises of granulocyte and agranulocyte, which granulocyte further consists of neutrophil, eosinophil, basophil, and the agranulocyte itself comprises of mainly three parts, mainly lymphocyte and monocyte, which are not important for you at this stage. And the platelets are the formed elements which mainly help in the blood clotting. So if we look at the brief overview of circulatory system, if we zoom in on we have blood, which is the main component. If we zoom in, we have fluid matrix and formed elements. Fluid matrix mainly consists of plasma, and the matrix part I have explained you, which consists of plasma, in which plasma consists of water, mainly 90 to 92% is water, and 90 to 92% is water, and there are some proteins also. Proteins I have explained you, these are fibrinogen, globulin and albumin. There are various functions of these proteins. And now comes the formed elements. We have RBC, WBC and platelets. RBC, erythrocyte, red blood cell; WBC, white blood cell or leukocyte; platelets or thrombocyte. So this is the brief overview of the circulatory system, which you will be able to remember by the zoom in and zoom out effect. So students, this is all about the lecture of today, which I have taught you. Hope you understand my words and hope you like this lecture very much. I have given my best and I have tried to explain you the systematics, nomenclature, classification of animals and the zoom in and zoom out effect, which will be very useful to you, and it will be very productive for you during examination time, because during stress time we are not able to remember things, and clear visualization skill is very important for this. So that's all for today, and now I'm going to be discussing some words with you. So the thing is, every single moment of your life you have a choice to be either good or bad. The fact that you are sitting here and listening to my lecture now, using your earphones or maybe without using your earphones, this itself is a choice. So the fact that you have decided to do it by taking the risk by leaving your studies and coming to take this lecture itself is a choice and it is a risk. So little things like making a right or wrong choice or decision will also depend, will it itself depend on what you will going to become tomorrow, right? So the choice is very important. Choice making and decision making skills are very important in life. So you always have to make the right decision. And at the end, I want to say that this class is not for everyone. It is only for the good students who try to be better. This is for the better students who try to be best. This is for the best students who try to be perfect. Now the question is, you have to ask yourself, what do you consider yourself? Are you a good student? Are you a better student trying to be better? Or are you a best student trying to make yourself perfect? Actually, motivation should always come from within you. Actually, motivation should always come from within you. It does not matter how many Sandeep Maheshwari videos you watch. It does not matter how many great philosopher quote you watch or read. At the end, all that matters is that the main question of your reason of existence, that why do I exist? You have to ask yourself, why do I exist? Why was I sent here on this earth? What is my purpose here? Only then you will have meaning in life, and only then you will be able to move forward. So that's all for today. And I hope I was able to make some difference in your life, at least by 1%. And that's all for today. Bye and have a wonderful day.